This video is an overview of how AssetAccountant works with Sage Intacct, specifically for use in the USA. AssetAccountant and Sage Intacct work together in three ways. Firstly, when AssetAccountant is implemented with Sage Intacct, a draft assets clearing account is set up and new fixed assets are coded to this in the Sage Intacct general ledger. AssetAccountant then automatically pulls these through for depreciation treatment. Secondly, AssetAccountant will post journals into Sage Intacct. And finally, the two systems synchronize both your standard and custom dimensions in Sage Intacct. Please note that the content in this video is a high-level overview where we cover the basics of fixed asset depreciation and leasing treatment. For more detailed tutorials and demonstrations, further videos are available on our website.
To start this demonstration, I will set up a new draft asset in Sage Intacct. A draft asset is created when an item is posted to the draft asset or the clearing account in Intacct. It doesn't matter how that entry is made. It can come through accounts payable, credit card transaction, or so on. In this case, I will just create a new journal to that account. So I'll just set up a general journal. I'm going to say I'm going to bring in my new computer. There, I will post the debit to the asset clearing account here. So let's say I'm spending $2,500 on that, and then the other side will go to accounts payable. So once I've entered that information, submitted it, that record has now hit the general ledger. That means I can move to AssetAccountant, and then I can refresh this draft asset screen, and that will go and interrogate the clearing account within Intacct, and any new draft assets that have been added will be pulled through here. So you can see my new computer is pulled through. There are a few options here you can add. In this case here, I'll just add this as its own record so that you can see how we create a new asset. So I'll bring through my new computer. It's got a description. I can just confirm that the group is computer equipment and so on. Over on the right-hand side, there are some options to set the tax and the book depreciation for this asset. The options that appear initially will be the defaults for the asset group. In this case, for computers, it's 5 years over a half-year declining balance method. You can change that to any of these methods. These are the IRS MACRS methods that they publish. So you can choose one of those that you'd like to use. You can also have Section 179, bonus depreciation, or a few of these other methods. And there is a lookup tool if you don't know what the IRS rate is, so you can search for a life or a rate there. And the option at the bottom here will also let you change the effective life based on the available choices for that particular method. And similarly for accounts, you can choose which method you'd like to use. So if you'd prefer to use declining balance, you can choose that. And you can edit the life as well. So let's say we're going to depreciate this over 10 years for book purposes. So I can save that. That then has now disappeared from this screen here. You can see the record has vanished from draft assets. So now I can move over into the assets section. So over here on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a number of other menu items. The assets item will bring you into this view, which shows the assets by asset group down the left-hand side, and then the period I'm looking at across the top here. In this case, I'm looking at the month of November 2025. The two toggle buttons up here in the top right-hand side will let you navigate between periods. So in this case here, I can move month to month, quarters, years, or choose custom periods if I like. And I can also switch between the tax view and the book view here as well. So just looking at the computer equipment group where I've just added that asset, you can see here that I've got an addition of $2,500 that's been added in. I can open up these items so I can look at the assets within the computer equipment group. And if I scroll down here, you can see my new computer has been added and the depreciation has started for the period, and then it's got a book value at the end of the month. So I can navigate into that asset here, and you'll see that every asset's got its own screen, and this screen has a full set of information to do with the assets. It's got the name, the code, any details that have come through from Intacct will be shown here as well. And there are these tabs here that give you full information about the asset. So we're looking at the information in relation to this asset as it pertains to accounting, so the book numbers. So you can see the cost that's been brought out and the written down value at the date at the end of the period we're looking at. This schedule here will show you the full depreciation over the life of the asset. So you can see month to month how much that asset is being depreciated by. Similarly for tax, there is a schedule here that shows the annual depreciation as laid out in the IRS methods. And we have these details tab here where you can enter classifications or dimensions as they are in Intacct. So you can set those up there and save that. You can add custom fields and attachments to AssetAccountant as well. There are some actions you can take to the individual asset up here. You can do these in bulk as well. So if you're managing multiple assets, the bulk actions menu item over here will allow you to do this in bulk. But if you just want to manage one asset at a time, there's various things you can do, including adding a child to assets. So we support parent-child relationship for assets where you've got components. You can put quantities in if you're managing multiple assets in a single record. You can also attach a lease to the asset, which I'll show momentarily, and you can finally add a few other actions to the asset down here, such as transferring it from one group to another, adding additional cost, or processing a sale or a write-off. I'm going to attach a lease to this asset for the purposes of demonstrating how the lease functionality works. So you can see here I've chosen to attach a lease. I can just choose the type of lease, put the start date in, and then I'm going to put the amount financed here so I can generate the schedule for $2,500. So let's say I'm going to pay a $500 deposit, and then I'm going to make payments of $100 a month for, let's say I'm going to pay that for 12 months, and then I'll have a final balloon payment of $1,000 at the end of that lease. That will then allow me to generate schedule for that lease, and you can see here each payment is laid out with the interest component as calculated by the system. And then if I'm happy, I can use that schedule, save it, and then the asset record will have information to do with the lease here as well. So you can see, as well as the depreciation and the book values being displayed, you've got the principal as added at the date of purchase, and then each month there's an interest accrual that's shown here, and the lease liability is reduced over the course of the life of the lease. So once that information's in AssetAccountant, I can go over to this menu over here on the left-hand side again, and I'm going to go and look at my journals. So you can see here I've already created a journal for the month of November 2025 prior to adding that asset. So that's done my regular depreciation entries. And now I'm going to create a second journal to the same date. That will just show the impact of any changes since that last journal was made. So you can see here, all I've got are some entries in the computer equipment group. And if I scroll down, I can review these here. So just to run through some of these journals, the clearing account here has been credited with $2,500, which is moving out the entry in relation to the draft asset when I brought my new computer in. And the computer equipment cost account now has that corresponding debit on the other side. So I've moved the $2,500 out of the clearing account and posted it in the correct cost account in there. And then depreciation has also started for that asset. So you can see this $10.27 has started to be depreciated there. And then the other entries here are in relation to the lease. So you can see here there's an entry that's posted to my lease interest account, 70201 of $9.78, which is the interest on the lease for the month. And this journal here set up the lease liability, the current and the non-current, as well as moving the payments in 12 months' time from non-current to current liabilities. So if I'm happy with the journal, once I've reviewed it in here, then there's an option just to post it to Sage Intacct from there. So I can just review the journal in AssetAccountant each month as part of the month-end process. And then when I'm ready, post that journal directly into Intacct. The next area of the system I just want to look at is reports. So we have a number of standard reports available here. So there are various detailed information you can get out of AssetAccountant here, such as acquisitions or disposal reports. We do forecasts for planning future periods and so on. The asset group summary and the asset summary are the full disclosures you need for your accounts. The asset export gives you a full download of data. So there's various options for getting data out, and similarly for leases, We have almost 20 standard reports for leases available in the system here that you will be able to use no matter what information you're looking for within AssetAccountant. So that's a very quick run through of AssetAccountant, showing the overall integration with Sage Intacct, how it pulls draft assets over, allows you to categorize them in Intacct, and then posts back journals for creating the depreciation entries and so on in there. We also cover leases, which we've touched on very briefly. There are further, more detailed videos available on our website if you would like to investigate any of the rich functionality in AssetAccountant in any more detail.